I've expressed my view to the legislature. It is up to them to respond to the request of the governor that changes be made in the current bill to make it reflect the federal law that I think sets the right tone for Arkansas and its future.
All right, welcome back from the intermission. Second half of the arena now open for business. She is reporter for the National Review, also been part of the Campus Reform reporting team. Welcome back, Katherine Timpf. And he is the defender of liberty, rocking the Dallas-Fort Worth airwaves every weekday from 3 to 7 p.m. local time on 570 KLIF Radio, Grant Stinchfield. Welcome both.
Ed, good to be with you.
All right, good to see you guys again. Let's get to work here and let's talk about what's happening between Indiana and Arkansas. Is it possible, and Katherine, I'm going to come to you first on this one, that the federal law is one thing, the Indiana law is another, that the people in Indiana should have just looked at the federal law? Had they copied that, had they gone after that, we wouldn't be here, but pretty much they made a huge gaffe coming out of the box on this law.
Yes, they absolutely did. And I don't know, there already are federal discrimination laws, right? So all he did with this law was come out and say, hey, just so you know, you definitely hypothetically don't have to serve a gay wedding, basically, or for whatever reason, religious reasons, which I don't know if any religion really forbids that specific instance. I don't think that's really central to any religion. And all it does is make Republicans look bad, because whether you like it or not, public opinion is shifting on this issue. So why don't we spend our time talking about something else? There are a lot of important issues out there. It's time to stop. All we're doing is hurting the party.
All right, now, then what you're saying, Katherine, now, would you agree then, Katherine, that with those people who say that same-sex marriage is inevitable in this country, sooner or later it will be in every state in the union and will be law? Is that an agreement from you?
Yes, absolutely, and I think that it should be, and I think that the Republicans need to take out of the party platform that they disagree with that.
Okay, now, Grant, I'm going to come to you on that side, because there's the argument. It will eventually be law. They're saying that this was a poorly written law to begin with, and more to Katherine's point, and we're hearing this from a lot of people right now, Republicans shot themselves in the foot on this one. Mike Pence, his 2016 chances are gone, if they were ever there to begin with, and Republicans simply look bad. How do they recover?
Well, Ed, we're falling right into the Democrats' trap here. This isn't about gay marriage. It's about religious freedom. This bill wasn't designed to discriminate against gays, but the Democrats know that if they make this an issue about gay marriage and lesbians and their rights, that the public and the media is going to fall right behind them. But this law doesn't differ from the federal law. See, what the media doesn't tell you is that in the federal dictionary, when it says a person, the federal dictionary, when it relates to an act of Congress, actually defines a person as a corporation or a limited liability corporation or any other institution. So all this bill did was try to spell out exactly what the law meant.
Right, but the language then is different, though, Grant. The language then is different, though, Grant.
In the federal law.
Correct? I mean, hang on one sec, Katherine, because I know that you disagree with this completely. But, Grant, that is then a change from the federal law.
Well, the language is different, but the meaning is exactly the same, because the definition of person, and I don't want to get bogged down in the weeds, but I've read a lot of bills in my day, and you have to look at what definitions are. And so the definition of a person in the federal law is a corporation as well as an individual. So what Indiana did was they tried to spell it out to make it easy for the courts, because the federal courts have already upheld. Look at Hobby Lobby. And there's other instances of the federal courts upholding that a corporation actually is looked at the same as an individual.
Okay, let's go to Katherine now, because, Katherine, I saw you shaking your head on this whole thing here. Go ahead.
You just contradicted yourself totally, because, yeah, federal law does already protect it. Look at Hobby Lobby, great example. Federal law protected them. Why on earth would Republicans come out and say, hey, just in case, here this is, and allow, like you said, yes, Democratic media, exactly, to make conservatives look bad?
I'm going to take Grant's side on one issue here, though, because I try to play both sides of the coin here, Katherine. Wait a minute. The law doesn't say anything that you can actually go against LGBT. It's not in the law. So how then is that extrapolated? I guess that's what people on the right are asking.
Well, it doesn't include LGBT. He just added it, I guess, today, saying that it would include not discriminating against
Well, originally it didn't say that. That's what some of the people on the right are saying. People on the right are saying it didn't say no LGBT. It didn't have a discrimination clause in it right from the beginning. That's what they're saying.
It didn't, and now it does, and people are still complaining about that. You've got
Ed, this is all nonsense.
Okay, no, wait a minute. Hang on a sec, Katherine. 1 second. 20 seconds, Grant. Why is it nonsense? 20 seconds.
Well, it's nonsense because this is about protecting people's rights so they're not discriminated against by the federal government. This is not a bill designed to help people discriminate against other people. There just isn't the sky is falling situations across 30 states that have this law. You're not seeing this discrimination.
Okay.
If anybody doesn't serve a gay person at their restaurant, I'm not eating at that
restaurant. I got to
restaurant
stop you there, but we're out of time, but we're going to come back in the next block. I want to add something to this, and we're going to continue with more right here on the MidPoint Arena. Welcome back to MidPoint. Let's get back to the arena. Reporter for the National Review, also part of the campus reform reporting team at one time, Katherine Timpf. And from the Dallas-Fort Worth airwaves of 570 KLIF Radio, Grant Stinchfield. Before we move on to something else, I'm going to bring this up. And Grant, I'm going to let you go first on this because there's a lot of companies out there right now that are basically hammering away at Indiana saying we're going to take our business out of there. We're going to no longer build there. However, and just for the sake of argument, and this was brought to my attention, there are 30 states in America that have a ban on same-sex marriage, have a ban on same-sex marriage and other unions, or where it has been ruled unconstitutional or under appeal. 30 states. Last time I checked, Walmart and a lot of those companies are still doing business in those states that ban same-sex marriage, yet they're all up in arms about this. Isn't it almost a little hypocritical? If you're going to go after something, if you're going to make a statement here, make a statement about the big picture, Grant. I don't even know if Grant can hear me. Okay, hang on. Grant's gone for a second. Katherine, I'll tell you what. Technical difficulties mean that you get to go first on this one, so now you get the first shot at that one. What do you think?
I just can't believe we're even talking about this at all anymore. I really can't. It's inevitable, and it's the right thing. Government shouldn't have any role in deciding.
Well, no, but that's not the question here, Katherine. One second. Let's be honest here, and we're just trying to break this down because it is fair. Walmart can certainly do whatever they want. Companies can say something, but they still do business, and they sell their products in states that ban same-sex marriage, which is in of itself an affront to the LGBT community. So why don't they then go say, hey, tell you what, let's pull out of those states right now. Let's use our hard economic clout to get to these states as well. Wouldn't that make sense?
Because Indiana's in the news cycle right now, and it's a popular thing to do. I don't really know. That just goes to the point that this is just a distraction. This is just a huge distraction out of nowhere. It's a popular thing to do right now to go against what many people consider the conservative point of view, although I think small government, and I think that's what we claim to stand for, we should stand for no good reason, for something so insignificant over hypotheticals.
All right, hypotheticals, insignificant and all that. Grant, I understand you're back with us right now. Did you hear the question originally, Grant?
I did start to hear your question about the 30 states. These companies are hypocritical. Here's what I'm calling for. I'm calling for a boycott of any company that wants to campaign against religious liberty. Religious liberty is what our nation was founded on. It is one of the basic tenets of being an American. Why would anybody be against religious liberty? This is not about gays and lesbians. And it's unfortunate that you've got Kat and I arguing. We're two conservatives here. We're falling right in the Democrats' trap. They use these simple little terms, the war against women, discriminating against gays and lesbians, hope and change. And we start arguing and we get bogged down in the weeds. This is not what this argument is about. It's about protecting freedom of religion.
All right, Katherine, I heard you. Go ahead and give it another groan. Go ahead.
Well, what do you think that religious freedom means, and how do we not already have that? I don't understand. How do we not already have that? That's already protected federally. Why do we need to go out and say, oh, hey, by the way, you know, you don't have to.
All right, that's a good question. Grant, to you. We got about 60 seconds left. Go ahead.
We need these laws to protect when religious liberty is infringed upon. We have a president that has no respect for religious liberty. Hobby Lobby was a perfect example of trying to mandate a corporation that has deep religious beliefs
in favor of religious liberty.
We needed the courts. Kat, we needed the courts to sort that out. We had an American Indian boy here in Texas who had long hair. The school said, you have to cut your hair. He fell back on Texas's religious freedom liberty law, and he won in court, and he can keep his hair longer. It's not about gays and lesbians. There's a Sikh woman who had to carry what looks like a knife into an IRS building. It's her religious beliefs that they carry this item around.
Are we talking about different things here, though, Grant?
Hang
on, guys, 1 second here. I got to stop both of us here because we're almost out of time. Hang on one sec, Katherine. I'm coming up against a break here. Let me just point this out. We can discuss this again on the other side of the break. That, Grant, the one thing that I think people will take umbrage with your argument is that you're talking about an individual cutting his hair. You're talking about an individual carrying something. We're talking about a business that is licensed by a state, licensed by a county, licensed by a city, and then is under some sort of federal regulation as well when it comes to doing business. Now, I tell you what, I made that point. We've gone really long on this, but I am going to let you answer to that point when we come back and hopefully try to get to a few more things when we come back. Grant Stinchfield, Katherine Timpf, hang tight. We'll come back on the other side. We will see if we can finish this and also get one note on perhaps what has happened in Atlanta regarding teachers and education. The Arena continues. All right, let's get back to the Arena one more time. Reporter for the National Review. Let's welcome back Katherine Timpf, and also from 570 KLIF Radio in Dallas-Fort Worth, Grant Stinchfield. Grant, real quickly, I'm going to come back to you. The point that I made here, we have to continue to make these differences here. One is about businesses granted licenses by a government. The other is individuals. Would you not agree that there's a difference there?
I don't, Ed, and you know you and I agree on almost everything, but the law is clear, the way the federal law is written, that when it relates to a person, and the Supreme Court has upheld this, that also relates to a corporation, but nobody's talking about that. So the actual word may be different, but this is superfluous. We're all arguing over semantics. I believe the law is the same.
All right, Katherine, real quick, is this a Democratic plot? Because Grant seems to think that it's just drawing us all in.
I don't. Of course it is, and that's why we shouldn't be focusing on it. I think that businesses should be able to whatever, if they don't want to serve somebody for any reason, whatever. And I also think that if you're two adults and you want to get married, then whatever. I think that if we're really conservatives, we'd be about small government on both sides of the issue.
Would we also
Can I say one thing real quick? Go
ahead, Grant.
Kat said, this is not about businesses not serving people. This is about businesses not celebrating in a religious act that they don't agree with. No one's turning away gays.
Where in the Bible does it say that you can't serve pizza to gay people?
Okay, well,
no, we could talk about the media.
No, hang on. I'm telling you what, I'm going to call time out on this right now, because if we get, and Katherine, your point is well taken, but if we get into the Bible, we'll be here till at least next Tuesday, because we have a tremendous amount to talk about on that. We'll have you guys back again. We'll open this up. I want to get a couple other things in here very quickly here on the Arena. More than 2 years after dozens of people indicted over a cheating scandal in the Atlantic public school system, they found all of these teachers guilty. It's basically racketeering they have here. What does this say, though, Katherine, about our school system? We've got teachers here trying to make sure that their students get great grades so that everybody gets bonuses. There's money passed along here. I mean, I'd be very honest with you here. In the Atlanta school system, I wouldn't put my kid in a public school there now for money or my life.
Right. It's really horrible, especially because you might have kids thinking that they actually know how to do certain kinds of math problems when really they don't. And also, if they get better test scores than they would really have, then they're not able to get special services if they needed help. But basically, if you have a one-size-fits-all requirement, a federal requirement, then it's not going to speak to the individual differences of specific schools, because some schools have challenges in more poor areas where there's students are hungry, students are dealing with other things. So one school shouldn't have the same requirements as another school because they're not the same.
Well, but still they cheated. And Grant, I'll tell you what, I feel no sympathy whatsoever. I feel no sympathy whatsoever for these teachers going to prison.
No, absolutely not. You can't cheat. What kind of message does that send to our children? I got a solution, though, Ed.
Go ahead.
It's called school choice. We put so much emphasis on this high-stakes testing. Why don't we put control over our kids to local school administrators, local teachers? Let's put some trust in them, finally, and institute school choice so schools start competing for our kids. Now, if our kids are failing, parents can say, hey, I'm not sending my kid to that school. I'm going to the school down the street. And we don't have to worry about this high-stakes testings. Let parents take control of their kids' future. Let teachers take control of education. And I think we'd be in a better place than we are right now.
I will agree with that. The only thing is we need to get all parents to care. And quite frankly, it is one of my bugaboos in life that I talk about because a lot of parents don't get involved. 60 seconds left. Quick comment from both of you. First from you, Grant. A new survey out says 1 in 5 Americans take drugs every day to relax. When they go home, they've got to take a little something to chill out. That doesn't surprise me in the least.
No, Ed, and in fact, when you read the study, it includes alcohol. So I'm one of those 5, and I take a Xanax on Christmas Eve when I spend time with my family. So I'm right there with him.
See, there's a man who admits he's got the Xanax out and he's working it on Christmas Eve. Katherine,
only Christmas Eve.
Well, only Christmas Eve. Katherine, with all we have to go through and all the stresses, this doesn't surprise me in the least if people want to get home and at least relax.
Not at all. I'm kind of surprised it's not more. Whatever you need to do is fine with me. It's none of my business.
Okay, as long as you do what you do, stay home. If you're going to have a cocktail, cocktail or a drink or whatever, stay home and don't go back out, don't drink and drive. How's that? We good on that, right?
Love that.
Yeah.
idea.
Okay, good, please, because I'll tell you what, I see people out there driving every day going to and from this studio, and they're completely sober, and that scares the living daylights out of me. I couldn't imagine anything else being on any kind of alcohol. Katherine, Timpf, Grant Stinchfield, great having you guys on. Thanks so much for being here. We will absolutely speak to you both again.
Pleasure to be with you both.
All right, take care, everybody. All right, have we reached the point where a majority of powerful world governments could care less if Israel lives or dies? And we're also going to go ground zero to Arkansas on this battle. And is too much being made over a simple comment by the First Lady? Next hour on MidPoint.